Hello again, everybody. Our next session is going to be the next session is a pre-recorded one, and it's going to be presented by Caz Prescott. Caz is one of Australia's prominent and versatile voice-over artists who you have been listening to for well over a decade. Caz is the voice of the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and all ABC TV programming. She has done numerous TV, radio and online advertising campaigns, as well as many popular audiobooks. Because this session is pre-recorded, there won't be any Q&A. So we'll now present Caz's session, A Day in the Life of an Audiobook Narrator, and how they become considerably longer in lockdown.
LibTech21 Audiobooks presents A Day in the Life of an Audiobook Narrator and How They Become Considerably Longer in Lockdown by Caz Prescott. Narrated by a very tired, sound-sensitive, stuck in a cupboard and quite frankly over it, Caz Prescott. Chapter 1. Receive the transcript. Chapter 2. Read it in a panic because they usually book you the day before they need to start recording. Chapter 3. Arrive on day 1 of said audiobook recording to a fully set up and professionally operated recording studio, complete with your very own comfortable, ergonomic, air-conditioned, and most importantly, soundproofed vocal booth. Chapter 4. Our villain COVID-19 blasts through the doors with a viral fury, ordering you back home immediately and indefinitely. Chapter 5. The show must go on, but, plot twist, our antagonist must now. Chapter 6. Learn how to be 3 people in one, possessing long-held technical skills you don't actually have. Chapter 9. I know I missed a few chapters, and that sure does happen when you record these things at home by yourself. Chapter 10. Continue recording professional audiobooks, but now all alone in a chipboard cupboard with your partner, the dog, and your kids awake, noisy, and needing you 24/7. This ends Disc 1, and nearly my sanity. Greetings, LibTech21ers. My name is Caz Prescott, and I'm an audiobook narrator. Big whoop, I hear you all say. We do this daily in our job, to a live audience of grim, tired-faced mums and little sticky hands thrusting up in the air after every sentence. I hear, but we do have a lot in common here. My sticky hands are 2-stroke motors. We've got the lawnmower, the neighbour's leaf blower. Any noise they can make, really, on a DIY kind of basis, comes in and puts a direct halt to my storytelling flow too. The tired-faced mum, that's me. As for live, you've caught me out. This is a pre-recording and all the audiobooks I do are pre-recorded. But why am I pre-recording this today, this offering to you at this symposium? Well, here's a recent glimpse from inside my home studio to illustrate why I cannot be live today or even properly run my voiceover career from my present home. Oh, the beautiful dulcet tones of an angle grinder just before I do a Source Connect with a huge client. God, I love this. And what's great too is that I've ordered this amazing studio that can't be built because the guy who installs it lives in Fairfield. But it hasn't stopped the construction across the road, which is the demolition and the rebuild of an entire school. I love lockdown. It's great for the career. So, it's actually really early on a Saturday morning when there's no construction noise across the road and the kids aren't up yet. So I've chiselled off my floral velour dressing gown to bring this pre-recorded expose of the life of an audiobook narrator to you. It might be a little bit too honest, and if you don't like it, you can always pop onto Audible and leave an anonymous review of one of my audiobooks, because they're always really fun to read, the mean ones, after you've had a night of hell in your padded box. You see what COVID's done to me? The AMA reports that some people lose their sense of taste. Well, COVID and lockdown and recording audiobooks from home has made me lose my sense of ever wanting to do another one again. Now, Narrating audiobooks somewhere like Penguin Random House in North Sydney can actually revitalise a VO's love for narrating audiobooks. I would get the train to Sydney. Dappled sunlight would dance across the page as I read the chapters that needed recording that day of What's It Like to be Chased by a Cassowary. It's a collection of the finest explainers and the finest writers from the Sydney Morning Herald and the Age. I would be driven and rocked by the train into these worlds of, mystery, misery and expansion outside my usual 4 foam walls. And I would roll out into North Sydney with good coffee and a lovely greeting at the desk at Penguin, and then I'd be escorted into the most beautiful vocal booth lined in Penguin Random House orange. Clean, spacious, double manned, and oh, so double manned in that one man was an actual sound engineer, professional, unlike me. 2 mans was a scholarly producer who could pronounce any word in the English language and lovingly guided me towards narration greatness, as opposed to the one-woman shite show that goes on at home in my padded cupboard. So, what is it about recording audiobooks at home that is so difficult? Yes, it is the noise, but it's also that you're in a tiny, dusty plywood box that you've kind of created yourself out of your built-in and your 70s rental, and you're smack bang in the middle of an unprotected horde of noisy family making sandwiches and neighbours running amok with their leaf blowers and whatnot. Single-womaned but triple-chawed. Yes, you hear me, ladies. Sound engineer, producer and voice artist all in one terribly unergonomic, unventilated, noisy game of Twister. Twister, but without the laughs, but definitely with someone's bum in your face, your own. And you don't really get to move from dot to dot, but you do fall over a lot, again and again and again. But many of us have had to adapt our working lives in ways that we neither deserve nor love. So here I am, early Saturday morning, avoiding the bulldozer across the road, and early enough to avoid the snap, crackle and pop of the kiddies and their breakfast bowls, to connect with you guys, fellow lovers of literature. And I guess this would be about the time, if I was live with you, that I would be answering questions from you. So I've kind of come up with my own idea of what those questions may be. Hopefully I get it right. Here we go. Question 1. How many audiobooks have you narrated? The answer? 10. Question 2. What do you get paid? Let's face it, who doesn't want to know that? And it's an awkward question to ask face to face, so I thought I'll give you the whole rundown. Well, voiceover artists, we get paid crazy high rates per hour, usually in the commercial world of doing ads and corporate videos, etc. But we do have to be available 24/7, and sometimes the phone doesn't ring for weeks. So although the hourly rate's high, we can never plan for any kind of financial security or be assured of what we're going to earn from, or not earn, from week to week. But audiobooks, unfortunately, because they're beautiful and the only time a voice actor actually really kind of gets to explore their craft in an acting way, they're not nestled within these realms of riches. Narrators get paid per finished hour. So a book can take a millennium to record, but if the finished audiobook that you end up hearing on Audible or Belinda or however you want to listen to them runs for 6.5 hours, we get paid an hourly rate times 6.5 hours. During one such illustrious project recorded at home, between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m, because that's the only time I could get enough quiet in my house, I calculated about 82 hours over 2 weeks. So obviously my maths isn't great. I did do a little bit pickups here and there in the arvos when the kids were, out or whatever. So audiobook narrators can make between $100 and $250 per finished hour, with the vast majority of those contracts being offered usually are about $150 per hour, depending on the studio, the book's budget, the publisher, etc. Question 3. What genres have you narrated? A fabulous mix of mostly fiction, all Aussie, and anything ranging from Christian White's The Wife and the Widow to a few, The Girls from the Bush, chick lit rural romances. Thrown in there are a few anomalies like a self-help personal finance book, a radio-style multi-voiced kind of mini-series, a collection of true stories from an author's paramedic husband dressed as fiction, delivered in gruesome and tragic detail. Reading that one actually during the first lockdown really gave me an amazing insight into what these people do on the front line of our medical services. It is eye-opening. Question 4. What books have you narrated? My first ever audiobook was Charlotte's Creek by Therese Creed. It is one of those romance bush novels. And I was directed to do a really broad Aussie accent. And when I listen back, I feel like the little kids that I created that were in the novel sound a little bit like Blinky Bill being run over by a tractor. But the author loved it. And she's a delightful human being, Therese. And she actually personally contacted me to thank me for my work on the book. She's the only author, I think, that's ever done that. And to invite my family to come and stay with her family on their actual true blue rural outback Queensland, cattle station. So, unfortunately we didn't ever get there, but what a lovely gesture. And I think Therese, clearly is a real deal in terms of what she writes and knows. The Cedar Tree by Nicole Alexander is a wonderfully written journey back in time, spanning 2 centuries and exploring migrant life in the Australian bush. Ferocious family feuds and foibles, the whole lot. The requirement for an old man Irish accent was pretty much sprung on me with no notice and had me madly mumbling to myself on that morning train ride, trying to imitate in my own audible earphones Kate Mulvaney's astounding narration of The Shepherd's Hut. Have a listen if you haven't before. It's amazing. It's probably my favourite. Back to what I've done. Genevieve Gannon's The Mothers had me sobbing mid-take during the recording session. It's really quite sad. Kimberly Starr's Torched was recorded just as the 2019 to 2020 summer bushfires were raging all up the south, all through Australia, but our own south coast home was threatened. So that was really surreal to be recording that book at that time. Gave me a good break from the RFS radio. But when I think back on those days, I actually can recall almost like a smell of burning eucalyptus. Obviously not in the Audio O'Brien North Sydney studio where I was doing it. But it was surreal, no doubt about it. Another one that I loved was The Application of Pressure by Rachel Mead, and that's the paramedic real stories wrapped up into fiction. That was probably the most challenging home record I've ever done. It was just really noisy for some reason around the house at that time. So I felt a really strong affinity with the novel's title. It was an application of pressure, that one. Okay, question 5. Which is your favourite of the books you have narrated? Well, anything done with an actual studio engineer and producer is always a bonus. But I've loved all the Australian fiction I've had the honour of narrating, really. The romance novels aren't necessarily my usual cup of tea, but I do, of course, get as wrapped up as anyone in any story. And when you're, it's 3 a.m. and you're alone in a dark box by yourself, a little bit of, romance in the high country can do wonders for the morale. The Wife and the Widow by Christian White is by far the most successful audiobook I've ever narrated and is actually my favourite. I had the honour of narrating Christian's novel. It won the Ned Kelly, his novel, not my audiobook, won the Ned Kelly Award for Best Crime Fiction 2020. And our audiobook, me and Christian, was shortlisted for an ABBIA Award in the same year. So that was pretty special. It was also the editor's, the editor's extra book of the month on Audible. And it's attracted over 5,000 reviews. The Wife and the Widow is set on a fictional beach holiday paradise island during the sort of sleepy, lo-fi, locals-only winter, which I'm familiar with from living on the South Coast. So I think that sort of, ran for me and why the book, I enjoyed it so much. It's a mind-bending crime thriller. and it twists through sort of family heartbreak and loss and languid island life, and then cleverly turns and throws you down the sort of spinning hole of quiet horror, secrecy and grief. I loved being able to venomously spit out swear words at my fictitious husband. I mean, what wife doesn't want to get paid to do that? So, yeah, I hope I've answered the questions that you would have asked me if I could have been with you live today. As you're watching, actually, my family and I are packing up and in the removal truck, moving to a quieter house where I am having installed a brand new custom-built, super-duper professional home recording vocal booth. And yeah, you guessed it. The walls are lovingly lined in Penguin Publishing Orange. Okay, LibTechers21, thanks for listening to my woes and my windfalls of the written word today, and I hope you have yourselves a superb symposium. I shall leave you with a short film that I made with my kids during last year's lockdown. How I found the time to do that between narrating, audiobooks that took 82 hours, I have no idea. Well, actually, I think the film explains exactly how I found the time. My latest soft porn audiobook, take 52. I moan and pull his body closer to mine, skin to skin, his rock hard.
Found you.
Oh, sweetheart. Mummy can't play hide and seek right now, darling.
Mummy, what are you doing in the cupboard?
My work. Remember? Mummy works in a cupboard now. Kiss me, you fool, I whisper. He starts to rip off my lacy under... Where is that bloody noise coming from? Kids, sweeties, just keep it down, please. Remember, Mummy's recording her stories. Take 193. Okay. Red hot and ready, she arches her back and cries out, "God damn it! That's it. No laughing, no breathing, no playing. That's it. I've had enough." Right. That's that sorted out. Okay. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. No, I groan. If you want me as hard as I can feel that you want me, then saddle up the old broodmare, you stallion, and ride me all the way home. Homeschooling. Department of Education. What? Homeschool? Homeschooling your kid. Kids. 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 Oh well, at least I got a few chapters done.
Well, now you've heard Caz's presentation. Next time you're watching the ABC and you hear a voice, you can say, "I know who that is." And there is a question here for Renata, is how many cataloguers work at SCIS? There you go. So if you like to, drop us a line, we can, mention that to give you your answer the next time we're on. We're now having a long break and we'll be back at 2 o'clock.